Let's talk about movement coaching. So, what is movement coaching? This is where I focus on your biomechanics. I look at how you move and we figure out how to position your bones in space to optimally align your joints and to get your muscles to fire efficiently. Okay, that sounds complicated. Why do you care? Well, it's as simple as what is the optimal position for your body to do anything that you want. So if you are literally lifting your arms overhead, there is a better way to do things and a worse way to do things, right? So if you're lifting your arm overhead, what is the optimal way for you to do that? So if you're going to be training weight training, strength training, if you're going to be training overhead press movements, let's find a position that actually serves you, right? So this is where we look at this position that you're in, and that could have to do with posture, or it could have to do with the way you activate your body to actually initiate the movement, but it has to do with finding the right position for your body to then benefit from this exercise. And so if you're transitioning that into any sort of sport, we can see what is it that we need to strengthen, how do we align our body optimally, and then serve that sport so that you can actually break through plateaus, so that you can actually improve your technique and improve your performance in the sport. And that, of course, naturally prevents injuries because you're not overusing your joints as you are moving, as you are doing these intense activities, as you're doing these intense movements. So movement coaching really has to do with making sure that your bones are optimally aligned. And that will then translate into performance, getting out of pain, getting you to fire your muscles more efficiently, use more muscles so that you actually get stronger. And that could be a switch that we flip literally over a few adjustments, tweaks into your positioning, into your body position. Then all of a sudden you're able to access more muscles so that when you're moving a weight, you're actually feeling stronger. So it's not something that you have to do, many months of strength training to access, right? It's something that like a switch that we can flip to find, okay, if you just hold your neck differently, it's actually going to activate your back differently, and it's going to allow you to access more rotation in your shoulders, which will then allow you to be stronger in an overhead press. It's actually simple. It sounds complicated and it's not easy, but it is simple because it's going to allow you to access your muscles in a different way if you access a more optimal position. Okay, so let's use some examples. When you are in pain, if you are having some sort of a pain pattern, and let's use a lower back pain as an example. So there's a variety of reasons why you might have back pain. But over the course of your life, you have collected a certain way of moving, a certain way of positioning yourself, a certain way of aligning your body, your posture, and initiating movements. You might, kind of been told because of your back pain, you might have to, strengthen your abs because your core is weak. That's why your back hurts. So there's all sorts of layers to how you move, especially in response to this back pain. So what caused it, and then why are you moving in the way to actually kind of like try to correct it? And so we look at what is it that's actually causing you to have this pain. So is there a better way to position yourself to get out of pain immediately? So I see this a lot with lower back pain, is that you're going to be guarding against certain movements because of the pain. I suffered from back pain myself, so I'm very, very familiar with guarding against certain movements. So like extension hurts and then this hurt, it just sends you down this whole path. So we get you out of that whole pain cycle by adjusting how you move through consistent movement patterns, right? So like if you have a tendency to hunch over, if you have a tendency to overload your lower back, and it's not about activating your abs to support your lower back, it is about to to positioning your whole spine better to take the pressure off of your lower back so that other muscles and other joints are able to support whatever movement you're doing. So that's why we look at the squat patterns, the hinge pattern, the overhead press pattern, how you walk, locomotion, how you run. All of these are patterns that you are then applying your movement history to, and then there's some pain history associated with it that has caused you to move a certain way. And then of course there's like your job type. Like if you're a sedentary person for the most part, and then you go into the gym in the evenings, like that's translating over into how you're moving. So if you're sitting all day and then you're lifting in the evening, there is a translation of that. Like your body remembers it all. Your body remembers how you moved throughout the day. And then when you show up to the gym to deadlift, it's going to remember that you were sitting kind of hunched over throughout the day in front of the computer. So it's being aware of those movement patterns. So then when you go to the gym and you're able to access this stability in your lower back and you're able to access your muscles that were possibly turned off throughout the day. So that's where movement coaching looks at your alignment. So we look at your positioning and then we train better positions through strength training. And so my mode of strength training, I prefer kettlebells, but it's also all of the patterns that I've described: squat, hinge, which is like a deadlift or a swing pattern, overhead press, loaded carries to train locomotion, twisting. We look at it all and we figure out, so for whatever it is that you want to pursue, if you are doing other sports like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or flag football, whatever it is, how is that strength training going to translate and improve for your sport? So if you're doing strength training for the sake of strength training, like powerlifting, or Olympic lifting, CrossFit, we can look at those movement patterns within those lifts and optimize that positioning and also see how we can recruit your muscles more efficiently. If you are doing something else, like grappling, like running, like ballet, like whatever it is, you're pursuing something else, we look at how those movement patterns, we can strengthen them and use them to really reset your body from the demands of your sport. Right, so in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, you might be overly here kind of doing a lot of kind of closing the neck to prevent chokes, kind of doing the turtle back, kind of caving your butt under in this sort of position in the guard, right? Like we look at how you move throughout those positions. So doing in a strength training program that realigns your spine to then optimize how you train jiu-jitsu. So again, movement coaching applies to realigning, resetting, and rebuilding strength that you need to then optimize your training. So it's not just prescribing certain exercises, it's how you move in those exercises. It's the quality of your movement in those exercises, and of course throughout the day. So if you are noticing that when you sit, you get a kink in your neck, well, we can address that too, right? Because we can find ways to support your neck using a different musculature, because your head needs to balance on top of your body. Your head needs to balance on top of your shoulders. And then your shoulders need to balance on top of your hips. And then your hips need to balance on top of your feet. So there's this whole kinetic chain that we review. So just because you have low back pain doesn't mean that it's caused by something in your lower back, right? So it could be caused by a movement pattern that you're accessing because of a certain movement history, and it could be coming from your feet, or it could be coming from your shoulders, or it could be coming from your back. So there's a variety of reasons, but we look at you as a whole. And this is where I want to address what is the difference between movement coaching and physical therapy. So physical therapy is a fantastic tool, especially for acute injuries, to get out of pain immediately, right? So if you are experiencing a certain pain, Let's keep using lower back pain. You might go to a physical therapist and they might give you some introductory exercises to reactivate your muscles. They might give you, send you to a massage. They might give you electric stimulation. They might give you some acupuncture. There is a variety of things that they can do to help you manage pain. And then they might assess you. And then they might find, okay, your glutes appear to be weak. Your core appears to be weak. We need to give you strengthening exercises for that. And everybody's probably gone through some version of that with physical therapy, where you're given some really basic exercises to retrain your core, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the problem that I've always found with physical therapy, and anybody who's experienced chronic pain has had this issue with physical therapy. And that is, how do you transfer those, I've activated my core, great. I've activated my glutes, great. How do I transfer that over into my life, into my sport, into my exercise routine? Like, what do I do now? Because the problem with physical therapy is that it hasn't caused you to move differently. You're still moving how you move. You might have received a temporary relief from pain, but it has not solved the issue, because the issue comes from how you're moving, how you're recruiting your muscles, how you're aligning your spine, how your joints are positioned, which causes your muscles to then fire suboptimally for whatever reason. Us training a certain muscle group will not solve the overall issue of how you move and how you position yourself. This is where movement coaching comes in, to look at you holistically, because you're a whole person, and there's a kinetic chain that connects you. Your feet are connected to your shoulders. So if you have shoulder pain, it could be caused by the way you use your feet. See this a lot, by the way. So this is something that physical therapy doesn't address. There are some physical therapists that kind of move beyond that and are like realizing that to better treat patients, we need to address the whole movement pattern. They are few and far between. So when you go to a physical therapist, especially when it's covered by insurance, this happened to me. I had knee pain, but I also had hip pain. But they were only willing to look at the knee pain because that's what insurance was paying for. So for hip pain, I had to go and get a referral once again to get this physical therapist to see me. And it was like on the same leg, like they're connected by one bone, by my femur. And it was like, no, I can't help you with your hip. And it's like, they gave me exercises to strengthen my knee. And that was great. But my movement pattern, the issue with my movement pattern was because I was overusing, I was doing ballet at the time, and I was overusing the muscles. I was kind of putting too much pressure on the inside of my knee, because my foot was falling inward in external rotation. I was activating my glutes properly. And I was putting too much pressure on my hip doing that. So it was like this whole chain of events was happening, but they had no idea, because they didn't even ask. How does it translate into ballet? How do we get you back to your sport? How do we get you back to your activity so that you're no longer repeating the pattern that is causing the issue? The issue being your knee hurts from the way your foot caves in, and from the way your glute doesn't activate at the right time, and the way that you're putting pressure on your sacrum. I figured all of this out after I got a PhD in kinesiology. But it was like a huge point of frustration for me, because I had all of this pain that would temporarily get relief from physical therapy, but it did not solve my problem until I revisited how I move. And I had to really slow down and really reset to figure it out. So this is what I offer. I offer movement coaching to look at you as a whole person who is moving through space. And we figure out, how do we optimize how you're aligned, how you're positioned, how you're activating your muscles, so that you get out of pain permanently, forever, for good, because you have a path, you have a direct path to improving your way of moving, so that you do not cause that pain again. And then we get you back into your sport, training on the mat, in the studio, in the gym, and then we find exercises that support that endeavor. And they're exercises that are actually going to make you better, not just reactivate certain muscles. There's that, but there's a whole plethora of setting up a whole training routine that's actually benefiting your sport, And then we find ways that within the sport, we apply sport-specific adjustments to the way you move so that you can actually break through plateaus, improve your technique, improve the quality of your movement so that you are getting the most out of the training that you're doing. You're putting in the effort, but let's make sure that effort is optimized by your movement, by the way you're positioned, by the way your muscles are recruited. This is what movement coaching is all about. And I would love for you to sign up for a movement assessment so we can figure out specific to you. What are your current movement patterns? What can we tweak to get you out of pain and get you back to your favorite sport?